Hi guys, welcome back to Sound Direction. Let me just put away the keyboard real quick because I play it live and I fade it manually every time.
He's
Just
a real DJ.
Yeah, I'm a real don't join.
Don't join.
The Last Jedi, still a great movie, guys. A lot of
How
fun.
many days until Rise of Skywalker? That's Christmas, right?
That's Christmas, yeah. So it's
Okay, let me look up.
Yeah, look that up.
How
many
How
days?
many days until Christmas? 106 days.
106. That's
Almost.
how long?
Almost at the big 100 if we recorded like
a week later.
Yeah, a week later.
We say 1 month later?
No, a week later minus 1 day.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are just joining us, this is Sound Direction. It's a Menswear podcast without the stuffiness, and by that I mean it's like smooth jazz. It's like, it's just stuff.
And we never
banging out
record
the
on
walls.
Thanksgiving, so there's never any stuffing.
That's really funny. That's a great joke.
Yeah.
I hope you're proud of that one.
Uh-huh.
So I hope you guys enjoyed our last episode, which was a discussion on social media. I personally liked it. Actually came at a good time too, because I had a big discussion about influencers, and I think it kind of went hand in hand on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of also having discussions with my friends and followers are kind of how I come up with ideas for our podcast episodes. And for those of you watching live on Instagram right now with us, feel free to join in. Six people. That's 100 less than the days till Rise of Skywalker.
There you go.
Feel free to join in the conversation by writing down in there. But today I thought we would talk about details and why they matter in menswear, because I'm sure Spencer will talk more about his experience maybe in retail.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's more customer facing than I am. But what I've noticed while I've been a fairly active member in Male Fashion Vice, which we talked about in the last episode, on Reddit, or just on Instagram, people kind of people ask me stuff, or I'm like the fashion guru for a lot of my friends, or from friends of friends who are like, hey, I've got this friend who likes fashion, you should ask him a question. I'm like
the love guru for my friends, because
he's a
I
regular
love that movie.
He's a regular Seth Meyers.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. I was gonna say Seth Meyers. I almost said Seth Rogen, I think, and I'm like, that's
Rogen.
wrong. It's Seth Meyers, and I got it
I would
wrong
like to see a
twice.
remake of it, though.
Yeah. Speaking of Seth Rogen, go watch Good Boys. It's pretty funny. Watch it once and go in blind, and you'll enjoy it, and then never watch it again. There's our little plug. But yeah, what I've noticed is when people come up and ask, they're usually very fixated on other things. They're fixated on price, or construction, and I guess we can get into that in a second. But I've always noticed people don't have this idea of style and detailing in their minds when they're buying something, especially when they're starting out. And I think that's crazy to me. And I know we've talked about this because when Spencer and I were discussing this this before in our basic wardrobe episode with, I think, Aldous or something like that, we kind of talked about how it's better for people to have a style in mind when buying something, or like an aesthetic, because it kind of guides your purchases.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always, I hope that people kind of have that in mind, but then the more and more I go out there, the more and more I realize people don't do that, and I think it's kind of weird.
And it's like, I think you already mentioned this, but we're specifically talking about people who are starting to get into fashion, because often when you are dressing because you want to,
right?
Because you think it's fun. If you've been doing it for a while, once you get past the early stages or whatever, you have your style in mind. But a lot of guys that are posting on Reddit, or that come into J.Crew, or when I was in Ben's Warehouse, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They are just, they kind of know how things should fit, but they don't really care about how it looks.
Right, and that also goes into a fact of how things should fit is also subjective. Based on what you like. And I think one of the biggest things I got from this is when I started doing vintage. This is 5 years ago, and people would be like, "Oh, why would you want to buy pants that are too baggy? Don't you want something that fits you?" And I'm like, well, I'm buying it because I want the wide fit.
Yeah.
I want that, I don't want it to hug my legs, and that's a specific thing that I'm after, and like it blows people's minds, you know. It's crazy, and I think.
And you could go on. We need to come up with some way to stop crosstalk. We need to like raise our hands.
Cross talking. What is this, religion class?
Yep.
Calvary.
Okay.
Do people know what Calvary is? Like non-Christian people?
Like,
because that's not like a common thing to say. Anyway.
Okay.
I love our tangents. It's like geometry class. See, now I forgot what the hell I was talking about. But I was
you talking about like baggy pants, like buying baggy pants.
Yeah. Or I was gonna say, okay. Thrifting is a great way to experiment with different styles, and I think, for me, this is kind of related to the whole wide leg thing. I think I bought like a pair of loafers that were tassel loafers or something like that, and people said, "Oh, why don't you just buy the ones from like Aldo?" And I would look at them and go like, "Well, I like tassel loafers, and those don't look like the ones I'm buying right now don't look like the ones from Aldo." And they're like, "Oh, but Aldo's new," and I'm like, "Yeah, but they don't look the way I want them to," And that's another thing too. Like it's not just about fit, but it's about like, oh, I'd rather have something new than something that like fits aesthetically, And I think we've gotten to this with like vintage people too, or people who are into shoes, where they say, why don't you buy like these Alden shoes? And I guess at that point it's kind of like that whole thing of, and we were talking about this before too, with the I'd rather eat a lot of good food than like one super fancy extravagant food or meal.
So it's like easier to buy like a couple pairs of like Allen Edmonds than get one pair of Alden shoes.
And especially when they look very similar. And I'm sorry if you guys hear there's some emergency going on outside.
We're committing podcast crimes right now.
Yeah, our VPNs aren't working right now. But yeah, it's like when you have an aesthetic in mind, I think it makes things a lot easier, and it's I'm okay if I wear something that fits my aesthetic, and that's usually what I buy for, because I don't really need of course I wouldn't want like a glued polyester suit, or even if it looked like a 30s suit. Like I have guidelines for myself, but I'm like fine buying like an old tweed jacket that is exactly what I want than buying something that might be newer that doesn't really fit exactly what I'm looking for.
So I was going to mention something that happens pretty frequently at J. Crew and also at Menswear House, both places I've worked, is we will get like older guys who come in and they say, it's like, I've been wearing like this style my whole life. I've been wearing like wide leg, or I've been wearing my suits with cuffs my whole life, but I know that's no longer in. So it's like, what should I do? And I always tell them, it's like, no, just if you're used to it, if that's what you like, just continue to do it. Or I get guys that come in, they don't necessarily know what they want, but as you said, they're just like, what's new? Like, what's the cool thing now? And it's like, I tried to guide them towards what they're looking for, but at the same time, I try to keep them comfortable. But I think a couple of the main reasons that guys who are just starting out in fashion don't care about details as much as they care about fit or other stuff is just because, one, with fit, it's easier to have like rules. It's easier to say, it's like, okay, this is how it should fit. If it fits like this, I'm good. Where with style, like if they're going for just like details, like specific aesthetics, they might not know if other people think it looks good. And obviously, we care about what others think a little bit, but for the most part, we dress for ourselves. Yeah. But I think a lot of guys who are new to dressing up, or I should say dressing well, they mostly focus on, the opinions of others, which is understandable.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because they do focus on fit a lot, and that's a good observation, because I didn't realize that guys, it's easier to find something that fits, something that is stylish, because stylish, they can argue that, oh, I don't want something to be out of fashion, or I don't want to look too extravagant or something, but if it fits well, that's what matters, and most people notice that, and that's not a bad thing to do. I just think that you can do both. This goes to like a lot of my I always like into like film scores. And we talked about this before too with the photography one, where it's like, oh, people don't like, orchestral film scores because they find it too powerful for the visuals, or it's too distracting. And I'm like, well, that's on the composer to be good, to find that middle ground where you can have a beautiful score but also make it fit the visuals, without being, too much. And it goes to guys who dress up where they kind of want the bare minimum. They want to be able to look good without, again, being too flashy or putting in too much effort, and they kind of, default to, well, fit is where I can be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll also say I think a lot of guys starting out don't notice details. Like this is an example.
Oh, that's true. That's good. Yeah.
So before I even got into fashion, my hobby for like a year was airsoft.
Okay.
And so at that time I was like a history nerd. I was big into like the Vietnam War, which is funny because now, I'm still into the history, but now I'm just buying a lot of Vietnam surplus.
Yeah.
So at the time I would go to surplus stores and like, get what I thought was like, Vietnam era fatigues. I would look at pictures, I would look at what I had and be like, okay, this looks the same. And now looking at what I bought and like Vietnam fatigues, it's like they were completely different. Like I was just buying like all of BDUs and being like, this looks pretty similar. But I didn't notice. It's like, okay, one of the pockets is slanted. It has like, the pleat and stuff like that. It's like, guys coming in. If say you get like really into Ivy style, you'll come into J. Crew and get like like one of our Oxfords or whatever, or just like any store that makes a button-down collar. You might not notice that the collar is like really short. It doesn't have the roll. It doesn't have the length that a classic like Brooks Brothers thing does, just because you haven't studied it enough.
Right, and I think it's really funny because, sometimes you get guys who are like, oh, how do I look like you, or feel as comfortable in a suit as you do when I'm when I'm wearing like my H&M suit or whatever. And I'm always like, well, it's because I'm not wearing an H&M suit, like very small details matter. Sometimes it's not just having the pleats, although that's cool, to make it like a wide jungle jacket looks a lot cooler than an M53. Is that a thing? I don't know.
There's M51.
M51, that's the right one. Yeah, and it's because the shoulders are softer, or the shoulders are more extended, the lapels are wider, the 3-roll-2 is more generous. It's like, it's kind of unfortunate, and I don't want to call out, I can't call out people because sometimes I forget, but like when people send me like stuff on Instagram, like, oh, I got this thrifted suit, I'm trying to be like you, and I always say that's great, but I think that what they end up doing is, oh, they see me wearing a vintage tweed jacket, and they go to a Goodwill and buy a vintage tweed jacket, but maybe it's like 80s rather than 70s or 60s, or it's just not Ivy inspired, and there's, the look is different, there's like a drop button stance and everything, and and I get the fact that, oh, I want to be able to look like this with the budget, but I think once guys, I won't say it's always the guy's fault, but I think it's, it takes experience, and I just wish maybe for me, because I used to fall in that trap too, I wish I paid attention to the details. That way I wouldn't have to like give stuff to Jay or MJ, or or just give it back to Goodwill.
And because if we want to go into like thrifting and stuff, I know that you haven't been to you went to a Goodwill like a couple weeks ago, something like that. But you don't regularly thrift anymore. No. I really haven't done much thrifting at all, because when I first got into fashion, it was specifically like vintage stuff. And so I didn't necessarily care about the details, but I cared about how old things were. I couldn't go to Goodwill and find the stuff I'm looking for. And even when I got out of vintage, it's at the point where the things I want are specific enough that I can't really find it. Like I can't really find it at Goodwill.
Yeah, and that's just what happens, with when you get into menswear in general. Like you go to Suit Supply and then you realize, hey, I don't want a slim leg anymore, and then you realize you can't get that there unless you do like customer made to measure or something, or you want a lower gorge and you can't really get that. So that's, it happens, and I think I don't want to phrase this whole episode as like it's guys' fault, but it's more that I wish guys had more of an open mind or kind of explored more. And just because you and I have been there and we don't want to make those same mistakes, you know, I just was so I was talking on Reddit about the cotton suit article, which is live right now on the blog. You guys should check it out. And I'm talking about how I got mine from Atelier Fugue from our friend Dave. And he has a very kind of a Neapolitan, very contemporary inspired pattern. It's very soft shoulders. He's got a little bit of pleating in the suit jacket shoulders. Breast pockets curved. I think he does a barchetta breast pocket, but not a patch barchetta pocket. Pleated pants, everything like that. And this guy on Reddit, he's a good guy. He was just saying like, okay, what's the appeal with Dave or with Atelier Fugue if I can go to like Indochino and get a suit for like $500, or go up more and get like $1,000 for a canvas one. And I said, well, if you're thinking about canvas and that's important to you, go with the more money thing, because you probably won't get a good canvas jacket for less than $1,000 if it's custom. But I will say that I don't like Indochino or black lapel or whatever, like their style of single-breasted jacket. I don't like it. I can't see myself spending $500 or $1,000, regardless of canvas or not, on like a jacket that doesn't have soft shoulders, that doesn't do a 3-roll 2 the way I want it to, or that can or that doesn't allow me to do high-waisted pants without having to fudge up the measurements.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like you put your money where you feel is more where it should be, right? You should be specific about that thing, and if canvas is what you want, then you should do that. And Dave's suits are half canvas. It's a very light canvas, and it's almost unstructured. And some guys don't really like that, so I understand that. But I'm like, I would rather have a half canvas jacket that looks the way I want it to than have a full canvas jacket that is like 2-button and basically looks like an H&M jacket. And I think, it's not that I'm skimping out, because some guys, again, canvas is important. Having high quality canvas is a big deal. I will say that my Ascot Chang suit is fully canvas, and it's probably the best thing ever. But when you're going to wear something a lot, especially if it's like a suit, I'd rather it look exactly the way I want it to, because details definitely, that's like the difference between a cookie cutter suit, aka a suit from H&M or Menswear House, and then like a suit that has style inherently in it, because I think, and I'm sure Spencer would agree that, having a suit, one of the best ways to not look super corporate is to have details you can't find anywhere else, and that could be as much as a soft shoulder or patch pockets or just a 3-roll 2. And again, not many people have that, so I would gravitate toward finding a way to achieve those things. Do
you ever... Yeah, no, I agree. Like, one thing I was thinking of is, like, with sport coats, I always prefer to have patch pockets. Just because, it's like, I break that rule a lot because there's not a whole lot of... I haven't bought a sport coat in a while, but it's difficult to find... It's difficult to find a lot of brands in my price range that do that. Or it's like, if I'm getting stuff on eBay or something. But for a while I wasn't buying sport coats. I was only buying suits because I was like, I just want them with patch pockets. Do you ever get people people that aren't as into fashion? What do they think about your opinions on lapels? Because just thinking about myself, if I wasn't as into this as I was, I would think that you were being so weird about it. Just like where the notch is, stuff like that.
Well, I'll defend this for a second. So, the whole idea is that, I'm always after this kind of updated golden era aesthetic, right? And I really do think that lapels make a big difference because you see them. They're like the face of like the suit, right? And it's kind of like, maybe face is a bad idea, but like it's like the hair, right? You notice it, and
it's the crotch of the jacket.
It's the penis, and you notice if a penis is weird. No, it's like you could get away with having a comb over, like there's nothing wrong with it. It's the intentional change of it, and then when you're when you have the ability to pick things, just like me with my haircut, like if you have the ability to be like, no, I want this here, I want shaved sides, and I want them this length or whatever, why not do it with your lapels, you know? And they really do have a difference, because if like I sent Spencer, we can put this in show notes, because this one's not really, this one doesn't really have like a accompanying blog post, but I don't want to share it, but this French made to measure brand that I follow released their DB, and it had like a crazy belly to it, and it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I know some people might be into that, but to me it's like, oh, I could not wear that. Like, that is just not my thing. And it's like that. I don't think of it as I'm being super picky. It's just that I know exactly what I do not want on my jacket, you know.
And so going back to like vintage stuff, it's like, if we're talking about details, so I'm sure people listening to this podcast know this already.
Yeah.
But so there was a big resurgence of 1930s style in the late 60s and 70s. So there's a lot of stuff on eBay that's like 30 or 70s does 30s, and the biggest way to tell the difference is the shape of the lapel. Because it's like, usually it's like, it has a pretty it depending on when it was made in the 70s, it usually has like if it's earlier, it usually has like a higher button stance, which pretty well matches the 30s stuff, but the lapel is always off.
Yeah, it's always like, it's like a higher gorge, and it's like, it's the notch is like really wide and sharp compared to like the blunted.
Watch Chinatown. That's a good example. Like, they use great like 1930s looking fabrics. It's like they have a nice belt back and stuff, but the lapels are just wrong.
Oh, I mean, the same thing, like, watch Indiana Jones, and it's like all the
just
suits
look
are
like
very,
80s suits.
Yeah, I don't think they cared that much in Indiana Jones, but like, in general, it looks pretty good. Like, if you weren't paying attention, it looks, they're wearing like, loose cut suits or whatever, but and it's that eye. It's like when and you you can't see it any other way. And any suit that doesn't stand up to par is like, you just can't do it. I can't do it, And of course, I have some things that I kind of I don't really care too much about at certain price points or at certain details, like my my ring jacket balloon, which is one of the best things that I own, is great. It's got 3-roll to a moderate lapel, but if you compare it to, like, say, a Drake's jacket, the lapel, I think I like the lapel on Drake's a little bit better. But it's like enough that I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna wear this anyway. And also a Drake's jacket is like $1,300, while I got my ring jacket for $650. And at certain price points, like, whatever. Like, if I had like $2,000, I probably would not have gotten an Atelier Fugue cotton suit. I would have done like maybe PJT or just done it through Ascot Chang, But at $650 or $7, I forgot what it was, $650 or $750, whatever. I was like, that's, I'd rather have that, and I know I'm gonna wear it, And if I choose to upgrade in the future, which a lot of guys in menswear tend to do, it's not that big of a deal,
Yeah.
And
so this also applies to like casual stuff as well. We're not just talking about suiting. Because, I wanted a denim jacket a while ago, and I was like, maybe I'll try on the ones that we have at work. But the problem was they're all too long, which is the case for a lot of casual jackets. Or that, again, the reason I can't go thrifting. It's like, I want, like, just for example, like a tan work shirt. It's like I can't just go to a Dickies store and get a tan work shirt because it doesn't have the collar I want. It doesn't have, like, cool stitching or pockets or whatever. So it's like we just got in our fall stuff, and there's a lot of cool Wallace and Barnes stuff. One of them I really liked when I first saw it. It was like a 1930s style cardigan. It was pretty thick. It had like patch pockets. It has like wide ribbing, whatever. But it has a reinforced sleeve, but the sleeve is made of like, it's like a synthetic fabric. And I'm like, oh, I can't wear this. Like, if it was like a cotton, or if it was like, or something like that, if it was like a chambray, I would be like, oh, I'm all over this, but I can't wear it just because of that one little thing.
Yeah, I think fabric and polyester or whatever in general is one way for people to kind of get on the train of details matter, because it's kind of like, once you feel like what a 100% wool open weave hopsack, whatever it is, compared to like an H&M 100% wool suit, you'll feel it, and you'll be like, you can see like, I'm paying for this, And then one other thing I thought of, especially with the denim jacket thing, is that I'm currently on the look out for a denim jacket right now. I think I'm really into the 101J, despite it not having pockets on the sides.
You should look at like vintage Sears ones, because they had pockets. Sears and I think Wrangler, they had pockets.
Yeah, but then they have snap buttons and not the push, the regular kind.
True.
See, and then so it's kind of like a whole thing. But it's kind of because I had this conversation with, I think, our friend Andrew, and if you, I don't know if he's been on the blog that much, but Andrew likes to wear a lot of denim on denim just because it's easy for him. And I mean, he looks great. He's cool. But while we were looking, I think at Rose Bowl, this must be like years ago, when he was like, "Oh, why don't you get this denim jacket, Ethan?" And I'm like, "Well, first off, it's too long." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's $20." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's too long," Or it's
like you don't want to spend $20 on something you don't like or you're not going to wear.
Yeah, and I think it also comes with the fact that Spencer and I are both younger guys than we work. I mean, we make a decent amount of money, to survive on. But it's kind of like $20 could go towards something else, and then or our friends in who are into shoes will tell you, like, instead of buying, crappy Aldos, you'd rather save up and buy Allen Edmonds or an Alden pair of shoes, which is where I am right now. I'm currently saving up toward a pair of Shell Cordovan penny loafers, and that brings me to another thing where, so you guys remember Andy. Nguyen. He's like the third episode of the podcast or something like that, super early. And I remember when I first met him, he was wearing penny loafers, and he said he got them on Amazon. They're 100% leather, they were fine. But then he later on, like, he asked me, like, "Oh, where do you get yours? Because yours look cooler." And I'm like, "Oh, well, mine are Allen Edmonds that I thrifted." And he's like, "Why do they look different?" I'm like, "Well, it could be the vamp, and I don't like penny loafers of any kind with a high vamp, and they just don't look good." And when you look at say like Alden's the full strap penny loafers, they have a low vamp, and that kind of contributes to like an elegant look. And now Andy was like looking at it, and it's like, "Oh, that's true." And then he finally got some Allen Edmonds ones that I had, and he loves them. And it's that attention to detail.
And so also going to penny loafers, it's like, you and I both wear penny loafers a lot.
Right.
A lot of people would look at the penny loafers we tend to wear and be like, "What's the difference?" But I like the like 50 style, like Bass-Weejan, like very casual, rounded, with like the heavy stitching and stuff like that. And you prefer the more elegant one. It's like, to us, it's completely different looks, but to a lot of people, it's like they're just fucking slip-ons.
Yeah, I mean, just because, and if we want, I'm sure people are going to be like, "Why do you guys like it?" So we're going to answer it right now. I tend to like the elegant, like, if you look at the Shell Cordovan full strap Alden penny loafer like that, that's like the ideal, and that is what I'm saving up toward, because I like to have a very elegant take, well, not super elegant, but like to have that kind of air for casual wear. Like, I wear my tassel loafers with jeans because I like the way the shape looks. But I also have the same penny loafers that Spencer has, but I can only wear them with casual. They're not versatile enough for me. And I do appreciate, having a rounded toe, but they just don't work well as my, elegant last one will work both ways. But it's that desire for style or for a certain look that guides that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I like to like be able to like dress things down, look a little bit more, a little bit more slouchy, stuff like that. And
and Spencer's not really concerned about wearing them with suits. He doesn't really wear suits as much anymore as, I mean, I still do. But and they're cotton. Guys, go plug in that cotton blog post. But that's, and loafers in general are a good example, because a lot of guys tend to like, "Oh, I love loafers," and they buy like Ferragamo or whatever, and they just don't look the same. And if you're at the moment, if you can't if you can't see it, then it doesn't really matter. But I have had a bunch of guys who are like, "Oh, how come my penny loafers don't look the same way yours does?" Or why does the way Alpha M wear his don't look like the guys at the Armory? And it's when you look at those details, you look at the vamp, you look at the last, you look at the toe treatment, if it's chiseled or square or whatever, that all contributes to a certain thing that when once you start paying attention to it, you can't unsee it, and then you'll know exactly what you want, and it will guide your purchase, and you won't have to waste money on something. And of course, if you're thrifting something and you want to try out loafers, and then you just buy a Ferragamo pair, that's fine. If you're okay with spending $10-15, whatever. But once you start like buying new, which is what a lot of guys tend to do, because some guys don't agree with our methods of thrifting because people people pre-owned it, or it's sweaty or whatever. If you're buying it new, then that's when I'm starting to be like, please don't waste your money on something. Like, make sure it's something that you really want, and yeah. Well, what's some other like detailed things you think people don't pay attention toward, or that people disregard? I know fabric's a big one.
Fabric is a huge one, because like I think we've talked about it a little bit, but it's like, with still with suiting, with shirting, whatever, I like to have a little bit of texture. I like it to be slightly like heftier, more hard wearing. Yeah. So that then again, like, that's another big reason I didn't buy modern suits for a very long time, is because
I have a story about that
I thought
too.
It was too
actually,
thin. Yeah, go on.
I remember. My parents bought me like a Hugo Boss suit from like Nordstrom a long time. This is like this is like junior high school, and it was really nice. It was like a super smooth. And then my friend Scott, he would wear the our chorale suit. This is the suit we wore for our high school choir that we all bought from the same place. Because even with black, or, from brand to brand, you can tell the difference. Like a black suit from a black suit from Liverano from a certain mill will be different than a black suit from Ring Jacket. Whatever. And I remember going to a banquet, and I was wearing my suit and he's wearing his, and he asked me how much mine cost, and I was like, oh, it must be like a couple $100, $200, at the time, whatever. And he was like, oh, and the suits we got for chorale, because they were through the school, we had to be cheap. It was like $50 or $60 or something like that. And Scott was like, why did you pay that much? Like, it looks the same. And it did. There was shoulder pads, there's two buttons, whatever. But at the back of my head, I'm like, it just feels different. Like, they're both 100% wool, but like there's something about like the chorale one, the cheap one, that has kind of like a dry hand to it, while mine is very smooth and it feels more comfortable. I don't heat up as much in this thing, and that's a good example of of fabric and how important that is. And like I said earlier, I think that's the best way to get guys to kind of understand what you're paying for. And I think this also goes back to we said earlier where guys are more concerned about fit. I think guys are also very sensitive about price.
Yeah.
And like
especially
they don't want
to buy clothes often.
Yeah, and if you go on MFA, you get a lot of these threads like, oh, why should I pay that much for a certain thing? And it's one thing is fit, and the other thing is just fabric. And when
should the guy in the $1,300 suit should the guy
get the $200 bathrobe? I think it's time to rewatch Arrested Development.
I haven't watched it in a while. Now that The Office is going to be leaving Netflix next year, that might be my new comfort show, I guess.
That and I guess you gotta start watching Friends. It's a good background show, dude.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that that guys don't have that, but I understand it. We were all there at one point.
Yep.
And I could not imagine spending $600 or whatever dollars on a jacket, and then I fast forward 5 years later and I did that in Japan, and it's way better than any of my H&M stuff that I wore or bought on sale.
And going back to price, so again at work we J. Crew sells Aldens. Our store doesn't get any, but whenever someone returns it, we usually put it out, because if someone buys it, that's a $700 sale, just one item.
Yeah.
So we have our regular loafers, which are between $200 and $300. 100% leather, Goodyear welted, whatever. And then we have the Alden loafers, which are $650, something like that. And so people look at the two and they're like, what the fuck? It's like, what do these do? Cure cancer or whatever? It's like, why is this one so much more expensive than this one? And it's like, I have to just be like, it's a good shoe. It's going to take a long time to explain. But yeah.
No, so I think I had this before, because even even while I'm writing the blog, I still suffered from this whole thing because I was like, why would I buy Alden's when I can get a Goodyear welted shoe from like Meerman for $250 or something? And it took a long time for me to even to take my own advice, because eventually I realized even the Meerman loafer has kind of a high vamp, and I don't like that. And like comparing it now to whereas right now, here's a quick shout out to our friend Mac at Brogue Menlo Park. He graciously gifted me a pair of Alden's. I like to say it's for my birthday because he messaged me a long time ago near my birthday, and even though I got it a long time later, it doesn't matter. They were a great gift that I wear a lot, and even just looking at it, it's like there's a clear difference. If you put the Meerman tassel next to the Alden tassel, or just any loafer next to each other, you'll tell the difference. Because at a certain point, and I really want to plug this next thing, which is the Blammo podcast.
Yep.
There's a good episode with the guy behind, I think it's Tomasio. He's like the current head of Stefano Brenner, which is a bespoke shoe company. He says in there, like, there is no reason for someone to own a like a $3,000 shoe, or even like a $1,300 shoe.
Yeah.
The reason why you do that is because you want exactly, like, what goes into it, the craftsmanship, you want to support this family, the story, whatever, and it's also the details. Some people approach things differently, and I really like this episode, even though I'm not a huge shoe guy. Like, I don't know if I'll ever go anywhere better than Alden. I say that now. I'm sure maybe season 10 of Style and Direction, I want to be wearing like Carmina's or something. Or St. Crispin's. That's even better. But like, he said that at this level, of menswear, whether it's tailoring or whatever, it's not really about any competition. Like, you're not really stealing customers, that you're doing it one way and you want to encourage someone to buy what you have. And if people aren't into that, they don't have to buy it. They can go somewhere else, like there's no, I don't think an Italian suit, or all three different styles of Italian suits are inherently better than a British suit. They just have more of what I like from them, and therefore I prefer them. I don't think that there's anything wrong stylistically.
Oh yeah, and that kind of reminds me his attitude of like, it's like, I'm making it how I want it. If you want to buy it, come on in. If you don't, that's okay. There are other places that will cater to you. That reminds me a little bit of like Ethan Newton's kind of philosophy. And the quote from the episode, that because I listened to it again today, that I jotted down because I was like, oh, that's a really good analogy. He says, no one needs a Patek Philippe because an Apple Watch is going to tell you the time, as accurately. Or it's like, I see on like the watch subreddits, people being like, it's like a $15 watch from Target, with like battery powered, is going to keep time and tell time more accurately than this like $6,000 watch, but I get them because I want to.
I think because I mean, this episode kind of turns into, because I'm sure people are going to say like, oh, it's quality, right? That's what you're paying for, but it's really not that, because at a certain point quality doesn't really get any better, because handiwork doesn't always translate to quality either. You could even argue that there's more mistakes with handwork compared to machine work, and
maybe for someone like me, you think those mistakes are cool.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. Like, you want specific things, and I think the whole world would be better off for it, because you do. This might be a little bit more socialist kind of stuff, but like you break out of the capitalism mindset of like price, the benefit, cost benefit analysis, and your spreadsheet, all your purchases or whatever, and it becomes to, instead of having the best bang for your buck, you're buying exactly what you want, and you can't get to that point unless you pay attention to the details. And I personally believe that you can't be a stylish person without attention to those details. Like, I think, same thing for streetwear, techwear. Techwear, you could say it's Gore-Tex, and you could, buy the same thing at REI if you wanted to or whatever, but there's like inherent style and intent behind it that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, it's
or
like
you can argue that
that
it takes the mindset. Yeah, like
Normcore was big a couple of years ago, and I mean, I still don't really think that was a real thing. It was just like a marketing term or whatever. Yeah, but it's like, people. Well, I mean, I don't know if this is a good example as I thought, because I think a lot of those guys who were into that, a lot of the people that were into that, were just thrifting the same things that like they were wearing on Seinfeld or whatever. But it's like, it's like you can tell the difference between like a 20-year-old in Brooklyn who's who's wearing light wash jeans and New Balances, and like just like a guy that wears them because that's what he's been wearing for the last like 15 years. You could still tell the difference.
Yeah, details definitely matter within style, and I think intention, style is exactly what separates regular people, because the whole Patek Philippe thing could also be used for you don't have to wear a suit every day. You don't have to wear a tie. You don't have to wear a button up. You could probably get by in most cases with like a t-shirt and jeans, but like there's a difference between wearing like a white tee and jeans and sneakers than wearing like a striped tee with high-waisted jeans and like a pair of loafers, and I would argue that guy has more style and intent behind it than like a regular dude, or say my dad wearing it. And you don't have to be stylish, but when you want to be, the only way to do it is by making those choices and those decisions based on details, based on style or whatever.
Oh, I wasn't raising my hand.
Sorry. There's a spoiler for you guys. We started raising our hands whenever we wanted to talk.
If you're one of the 3 people watching live, you'll notice that.
I'm always so sad because I always see podcast recording, and then I guess maybe people just want to watch it and people taper off, because at the beginning we had like a lot of people.
Well, because I don't know. 15. I never like watching super long things on my phone because I get distracted and want to do other things. So if we were like broadcasting this on like fucking CBS, whatever, maybe people would watch it.
CBS All Access.
Yeah, Disney Plus.
Yeah. So hopefully, I think we got our point across with this one.
Yeah.
I know I want to talk about.
Well, people who want to know, like we talked about a lot. Oh, develop a personal style. Listen to our episode on that, because we didn't feel the need to go into all that stuff again.
Right. And that's, you really can't, if you want to save money and you want to do things effectively, that's really the only way to do it. Like, we always tell our friends, get inspiration albums, save pictures, screenshot stuff, talk to your friends, go look on the street, look at art and see what colors pop out at you, because style, you can't, it's not like a sprint. Like there's no secret way to do it. It's like working out. I'm not an exercise guy, but you can't just get buff. Yeah. You can't just. You also can't just do it, like liposuction, because even if you got that, even if you had like a personal stylist do it for you, you have to put the outfit together. You have to. There's a sense you still have some ownership and responsibility to do it yourself, and you might as well start by paying attention to details and getting pieces that really call out to you. And understanding why it's a big order, and it's, I know people hate having homework, but that's what you have to do if you really want to dress well and everything. And
as we always say, just copy what you like.
Yeah, I mean, and that'll inform it later too. Copy things based on your own ideas, because Spencer and I we talked about this in like inspiration episode, but we copy to an extent a lot of Bryceland's, a lot of workwear stuff or whatever, but we're kind of limited. We don't have it. I don't have monkey pants. I don't have camo pants, but I can take the ideas and do it myself, and that makes it become an Ethan outfit as opposed to just me copying a Bryceland's one.
Exactly.
And I do want to close off. I wish I could come up with this earlier instead of like 45 minutes into this, but I think that's why I don't like. Maybe don't like, but I don't really get a lot of influencer/YouTuber kind of bloggers or whatever, because they'll tell you the top 5 pants to get, and they'll have a sponsor or whatever, but they don't say why. Like why olive chinos? Yeah, they're cool, but the intent there is,
why not wear khakis or whatever? They look good with the same stuff.
Yeah, but and it's like, well, khakis are Ivy. And you can do an Ivy look with that, or olive chinos harken to military wear, and then you style it accordingly there. And I think saying stuff like that will help guys, kind of determine what they want to do, because at that point you're kind of just buying colors. And if that's your thing, that's cool too. But I just think that if you dive a little bit deeper, it'll inform more and more, and maybe hopefully help you enjoy dressing more than just the bare minimum. And I think that's also one reason I don't like YouTubers, because it's one, if you're dressing just to put clothes on and not wear a trash bag or something, which you also would not do regardless, I think that if you're gonna do something, and if you're gonna have something on your body for 12 to 18 hours of your day. You might as well make it something that you really want, you know. But yeah, that's our episode on that.
What did you guys think?
Yeah, leave a comment below. Let's go to our style and direction form submissions. We've got 13 in there because we did one last time, which was... we did two, technically, last time. We had the one that actually said, how does social media affect what we wear, and also a question about wearing loafers. But here's one that I think I can answer really quickly, and I'll read out to you. It comes to us from John. I don't know if that's your real name, buddy, but I'm going to call you that because you put it in there.
Okay.
But it says, what are some cool ways to casually incorporate jackets/blazers into outfits? There's only so many times you can put one over a t-shirt or a turtleneck sweater. Do you have any creative ways to layer them over or under pieces one might not think of when naturally pairing them with jackets? So what do you think, Spence?
So, I mean, I do this a lot. I like wearing jackets with jeans, which I used to not do, but now I do a lot. But I also just think pairing it, I mean, it's like, it's, you know, you see it a lot. Just pairing it with just things you wouldn't expect, things that are much more casual, like a work shirt or something. Like you know, like when I wore my paint splattered jacket with or my paint splattered chambray shirt with a navy blazer, or when you did a navy blazer and then your chin strap. It's pretty easy to do stuff like that, and it usually looks pretty good. It's a little bit more casual.
Yeah, I want to direct John to my casual Ethan blog post that kind of deals with this. I mean, obviously, if you have a jacket that is casual inherently, like hopsack, maybe tweed, or even like linen, it will make things way easier for you. Like I can't wear like a straight super 100s wool, you know, flat worsted, you know, plain weave.
Yeah.
You can't really do that. But yeah, with work shirts there, wearing
or
with
sport,
you know,
shirts, stuff like that.
Sport shirts,
the runaway collar.
Yeah, and I think that's one way to kind of break it up, you know. And you wear it with jeans. You wear them with like super wide leg pants. I like the idea of like a casual jacket with super wide leg pants cropped with like a loafer or something. Very Japanese. But that's one way to do it, you know. And you know, if you got like a cotton. Oh, excuse me. I guess it wouldn't be a podcast if Ethan didn't burp once in it.
Okay.
But if you have something like that, you know, like a chore blazer or something, that will make things easy for you. And it makes it easier to wear with jeans, odd chinos, military chinos, whatever. And yeah, I think that makes it work. And you know, just try it out. And you could even wear it's kind of weird to wear jackets under other jackets. Like I can't really think of another way to do that. Maybe like under a coat, but then I kind of err on the side of when you wear a coat, it's kind of formal or kind of Ivy, because if I'm not wearing a coat, I'd rather wear like a field jacket, which is more casual to get through like, you know, winter or whatever.
But then again, we don't live in a place that would ever necessitate.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't really happen that often
in other
anyway.
in places where it gets colder, we'd probably be more open to wearing like an overcoat more casually. But where it never dips below like 62 degrees, it's like we have no reason to do that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, yeah, hopefully that helps answer your question there. I mean, T-shirts, changing it with different types of T-shirts. You know, I think I prefer wearing striped T-shirts. I don't really like the whole minimal with like a plain white or plain gray or plain black. I like the idea of stripes a lot more. So that's one way to do it. You know, just basically change up whatever shirt you have underneath and maybe go even more casual with the pant choice and shoe choice or whatever. But yeah, check out the Casual Ethan. I think that will be a great blog post for you to check out. But yeah, I think we have time for one last one.
Oh boy.
Which is more of a story, and we can kind of react to it.
Okay.
This comes to us. I'm going to read this verbatim. This comes to us from Ivan at the Sartorial Teenager. Reminds me of the Teenage Gentleman. And for those of you who don't know, that was me a long time ago.
I remember when you turned 20 and it was like a big deal. It's like, what am I going to make my name?
Yeah, I thought of like Dress Like Me, like some kind of catchy blog thing, but I just became Ethan M. Wong and it kind of stuck. Yeah. Okay, so it's a story, so we're not really answering any question to it. Okay, so Ivan says, around 2015, I got into a show called Doctor Who. Doctor Who is a show about an alien called the Doctor. I know who the Doctor is.
Yep.
He flies around a time machine spaceship called the TARDIS, saving planet Earth from other aliens. Probably like Daleks and angels, right?
Probably.
Don't blink. Great episode. The Doctor is always impeccably dressed, whether in a tweed jacket, a bow tie, or a frock coat and a cricket sweater. The Doctor always looked quite dashing. Because of this show, I got into cosplay, and having the low budget I had to do as much research as I could about fabric, suit cuts, buttons, etc. Naturally, I gained interest in the world of tailoring, and I didn't want it to just be part of my cosplay life. I started to develop my wardrobe into something classic, but I hadn't found my true style yet, so I was still experimenting. Eventually, I stopped cosplaying and completely focused my attention on building a wardrobe that I loved. At first, I was into late Victorian menswear and had a bit of a frock coat fetish. But then I got to the classic English cut, something that you get out of Anderson and Shepherd, very cool. Then I got to soft Italian tailoring because of how easy the Italians looked at Pitti Uomo. Then I got into Lawrence Fellows and the wonderful films after the 30s. I was blown away. The proportions of the cut and the way men wore their clothes was perfect, and it was this that got me into 1930s and 40s menswear, and I can confidently say I have found my style. A few of my favorite pieces are 1930s Evening Tales, the vintage bespoke 1934 dinner jacket, 1930s morning coat, and an 1890s silk top hat. And he turned 17 in September. Then, this is a cool story because I kind of see myself in this, like...
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but I think one of the most classic things that I ever, that got me to menswear was Sherlock Holmes. And not the Benedict Cumberbatch one. It was the one with Robert Downey Jr. because he wears and he changes outfits throughout the film, but one of the ones he's in majority of the time is like this really cool corduroy frock coat. It's more of it's cut more like a suit jacket or whatever. He wears that with like a gold and black embroidered waistcoat with pinstripe odd trousers, and he wears it with a fedora. A black
and
fedora.
Get ready for our episode on this. I can't wait to do that.
I know, me too. This is I'm so ready to do it.
Yeah.
But and a lot of people, I always say Tintin and old cartoons and and I don't know why I just thought of this recently, but that was one of my things, and that kind of got me into it because the only way you could reasonably wear that is if you were cosplaying it, because you can't really wear a Victorian or I think Edwardian technically era Sherlock Holmes outfits. And then of course you get the whole Benedict Cumberbatch one where he's wearing a suit jacket underneath a nice great coat or whatever. And then I can also say that Spencer and I technically cosplay because our jobs don't require it, but we tend to cosplay Ethan Newton or Drake's or Armory or whatever. And so and I think it's kind of if punk is what got people into menswear, I think the nerdy stuff also gets into menswear because you learn the details of what makes a thing. Because you can't cosplay Sherlock Holmes, you can't cosplay Ash Ketchum without... Did I say Ash Ketchup? Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Ash Ketchup.
You can't cosplay Ash Ketchum without the specific hat he's wearing. You have to have those details, and that ties into this whole thing of you can't, having a personal style, having a good, a good look that you're after can only be done if you pay attention to the details. And
I'm glad that he did pay attention to the details, because I think there's a lot of people out there who say, I want to cosplay David Tennant's Doctor. Yeah. And you'll have to forgive me if I get some of the details wrong, because I'm not a Who head myself. But if I recall correctly, he wears a blue or brown pinstripe 4-button suit.
Yeah.
I think the lapels are kind of weird. I think a lot of guys who are, maybe not professional cosplayers, obviously, but guys who they know the ins and the outs of the Doctor Who lore, shit like that, but they never bother to notice his suit has 4 buttons. They just go to a Goodwill, they get a blue suit, they get a pair of fucking Chuck Taylors or whatever, and they're like, okay, I'm done. Yeah, or they'll just go to a website that sells that suit and they'll just buy it and never think about the details on it either, just because the website says
same thing with anime.
Suit.
Anime cosplay has the same stuff, and it's kind of crazy. And this is why I kind of want to get back into cosplaying to an extent, because I want to do it through a menswear lens, and kind of do it right. I think that there's a great in this anime called One Piece, which I'm sure some of you guys already know it, but the bad guys are the naval the naval force, and they wear white suits. And when I looked it up, they have I get it. You get a suit that is made like the anime, and of course most anime people. Animation people or illustrators don't draw it correctly. You know, they'll have like kind of crazy lapels or whatever. But I'm like, I have a legitimate double-breasted white suit, and it's tailored to like me. I feel like I would look better than the guy wearing like that, you know, the costume polyester one that's got like baggy pants because they didn't bother to hem it. You know, there's a big difference there, and I think looking good, it's crazy. You know, people pay attention to detail so much, and they kind of get the rest of it wrong. On that subject, I think Spencer's talked about this before, but there is like a website that tells you exactly what Indiana Jones wore in each movie.
Oh yeah,
And, like,
no, I look at it occasionally. I don't know why. It's like I think it's because I really like Indiana Jones,
I mean,
and I
it's
like
great.
all. Yeah, it's a great series, and I like they have like all high quality like screen caps of like his gear, but it gets so fucking specific. It's like the strap changed in between like, you know, Raiders and Temple of Doom on his like satchel and shit like that, or it's like, you know, the band is a couple millimeters wider on his hand or on his hat in between these two movies. It's insane how specific they get.
And most guys who use that though, like I've seen them, like, and they look just like they have it like down too. You know?
Yeah, like they have details.
Awesome.
Like here's how you get the indie boots, and here's the specific like dyes you have to use to match the color.
Because they don't make that specific color of indie boot anymore.
Yeah, and they have a subsection that I noticed a while back. I don't remember what I was Googling, but it's like I found they have a subsection for Jack Sparrow gear.
And think of how much shit Jack Sparrow wears in each movie.
Yeah, no, they have like a breakdown of all the stuff he has in his hair. They have like a breakdown of his rings, stuff like that. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. But excuse me. Oh, actually, I didn't burp. But thank you for the great story, Ivan. You know, honestly, I have been there before. I'm a big fandom person and Tumblr person myself, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I definitely did do cosplaying in my past. So but yeah, you know, it really does teach you a lot of these kind of things, and I think maybe someday I would do an interview. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of guys in menswear who are into anime and least of all cosplaying, but there's a good article by our friend Natty Adams who wrote about the concept of punk and how punk also influences not just a take on menswear, but like the attention to detail. I definitely think that there's not a lot, but a very few subsection of menswear of guys like me, Spencer, or you, Ivan, who have like this idea of fandom and attention to detail, and that translates to what you like in menswear or how you approach it. So I think that's cool. I just wish lots of more other cosplayers had that same attention to detail with how they dressed. You know, you go to Comic-Con or Anime Expo, and you know, they have great cosplay, but then you see them like on the street and they're kind of just not. There's a guy, Mr. Leo Zombie, he's like a famous cosplayer. Apparently he's canceled because he cheated on his fiance or something like that. I don't know what the drama is there. But like his regular clothes are kind of boring, you know? Like he could do like a crazy awesome cosplay, but you know, his regular stuff is kind of meh, you know.
Yeah.
And it's cool, and I think that cosplay gives you like that outlet to look the way you want. But I think again, cosplay some regular stylish people, you know, like me and Spencer, then that'll help you. You know, that way you can get the same high you get from cosplaying in your everyday wear, and I think that's a cool thing to have, because I think, you know, you could see the same thing like with like furries, right? It's like an escapism thing, and you know, I guess I'm a clothes furry. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Woolly.
Yeah, a woolly mammoth.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks you guys for listening. Again, thank you to Ivan for sending us that great story. If you guys want to, we'll have the link. The link is on the website at streetexprezza.wordpress.com/thepodcast. Or if you look up Sound Direction, I'm sure you'll find it. But the link to the submission form is there. Again, send us your questions, send us your stories, and we'll read them aloud on the podcast. Maybe do 1 or 2 per episode, and then you could you can leave us a name. You can leave it anonymous, whatever you want, and and I think that'll be a lot of fun, just for us, because you know, it gives us something else to do other than just talk the whole time.
Exactly. And we started the last couple episodes going live on Instagram. So if you are on Instagram and you see us going live together, because we don't like broadcast when we're doing this, but if you just happen upon us going live, pop in and ask us some questions. We can have time. We didn't get any questions this time, as far as I could tell. But yeah, we'll make time at the end of the episode to answer some viewer questions.
And feel free to use the submission form to suggest other topics for episodes. Just because not every episode is going to have a a blog post that goes with it. It's not always a movie review. It's not always, say, me talking about photography or the concept of dressing down or whatever. So yeah, feel free, because we always want ideas, and we honestly do want to keep these coming out on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys, thank you. Please leave us a review on iTunes. It means a lot to us. Helps other people find it about us, because now hand-cut radio is like the biggest thing now. So
and
whatever.
We don't pay for advertising, so that's like word of mouth and iTunes are the only ways that we can get out.
And hey, if you want to be a sponsor, why not?
Hit us up, man.
I would love to improv. Like, give me like the basics, and I would love to like come up like the way Scott Ackerman does it. Because I would love to say, never go to the post office again, stamps.com or something.
Yeah, we need to reach out to like I can't think of another fucking like Casper mattress or something. We need to reach out to them.
I would love
be
that.
like, exciting opportunity.
Squarespace.com, dude, they give 10% off to everybody. Why don't they just give one to us?
Yeah, come on, throw a dog a bone.
Build it beautiful. Put a box in your box. Because the website's just a box and your computer's a box.
Okay.
But yeah, feel free to follow me on Instagram. I am at Ethan M. Wong.
I'm at Spencer DSO.
And follow the podcast at Style and Direction, all spelled out. And we're starting to have a new format for the post there as well. Just because I think every other podcast has a format, and I just got tired of having just singular pictures. I went into Photoshop and made like a couple of stuff. So yeah, that'll be great. Big ups to my hands for playing the intro and outro music now, and I'm gonna play it again. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.